Welcome coders. In this video we're going to be talking about regular expressions or regex, and more specifically we're going to be doing this in JavaScript. I'm going to give you a few examples of some JavaScript that you can use in your code, or maybe you can build from. You can learn on how we can use them. Before I begin, I'll start with a few resources that you can use if you want to try this out on your own. If you go to freecodecamp.org, it's a great place for you to practice. As you can see here, they have 33 practices of regular expressions. I picked a few of these and modified them for my own use, and then I'd like to share what I've done with some of those. I've created a easy, a moderate, and a more difficult example that we're going to walk through. Also, another good idea is to look at a regex cheat sheet, and this is a great way if you want to put together your own regex, or if you want to reverse engineer from someone else's on the internet and you're not quite sure what it means. And then lastly, here's the code that we're going to walk through. This code will be on the GitHub for you to reference in the description below. So let's first talk about what is regex. A regular expression is a way for you to search or replace or maybe restrict characters in a field. A couple examples that you might want to use this for is maybe creating a specific type of username, maybe our password, or maybe just searching and replacing within your code. So let's go on to the first example here that we'll walk through. Each one of these examples have the similar lines of code, so let's look at what the code is doing as a whole, and then I'll go through the regex specifically. So in this first one, what we're going to do is we're going to make a variable and store some text. So we're just going to call it example string, and then hello universe. In the next line, what we're going to do is create another variable called example regex, and this is going to be a regex expression. The third line, what we're going to do is we're going to call the test function from our regex example, and we're going to search inside of our example string, and then we're going to store that in a variable called output. And then the last line here is we're going to output that console.log and then check and see whether it's true or false to see if it worked. Let's look at a regular expression. So here we're just going to search for some text, and it doesn't need to be in quotes. As you can see, it returns true. And then we could do a similar match here, comma space. If we run that, it returns true. But if we put any other characters in there, it's going to be false. So anything that matches here specifically, it's going to return. So that's the first easy example. Let's move on to the second example. In the second example, what we're going to do is we're going to check a password, and we're going to have two conditions. The first one is we're going to check for at least 5 characters. The second condition, we're going to check for at least a number. Same 4 lines of code. We're just going to change the string here, and then we're going to update what we search for from the regex. So the way we read a regex is from left to right. Now there are some order of operations you want to pay attention to, which I'll talk to you in a minute. But in this case, let's work our way from left to right. So as you can see in parentheses, that's going to be our first group. And then within these, we're going to have more specific. So in this case, \W. If you come down here, this is kind of like a mini cheat sheet. \W means a word character, letters, digits, or even an underscore. So this doesn't include special characters, which we can test. Then the next one we have is curly brace 5. And you can do a lot with curly braces. I encourage you to check out a cheat sheet and try different things that match your needs. We just want to have at least 5 characters, part of our requirements. So that's what the curly brace 5 does. Then in the next parentheses, we have another condition, and what we want to do is at least one number. So \D equals a digit. What we're going to do now is we're going to test this against some passwords. So what I have here is an example password. We have 3 letters and 3 numbers. Let's run that one. Okay, that's going to be true. If we take this away and make it 4 characters, it'll be false because it doesn't meet the 5 characters. If we do 5 letters with no number, it's going to be false. But if we add the number, then it's going to be true. It's a simple matching to check the minimum requirements, 5 letters and a number. We could add other stuff in there like a pound, and it's also true because it's not going to restrict anything from the string. It's just checking the minimum. In the next example, what we're going to do is we're actually going to restrict it and give it false if it doesn't meet that condition. In our third example, what we're going to be talking about is restricting usernames. I broke this down into 3 parts. We're going to have part 1, part 2a, and 2b. So part 1 is we want it to start with a character. The second part is an or. So we could have ends with 2 or more digits or ends with one or more characters, and 0 or more digits. So it's a little bit complicated to start. Let's go through it more specifically. Similar to the other examples, here is our expression that we're going to go through. The first is a caret, and what that means is we want to match the beginning of the pattern. So what we're asking it to do is match A through Z, or a character. So the first one needs to be a character. Then we have a group here with an OR. So this right here is going to be 2A, with the pipeline is OR, and then this group here is 2B. Remember, this is an order operation, so sometimes we have to read the whole equation and then break it down into parts. 2A, let's break this down here. What we have is 0 through 9, 0 through 9 plus. What that means is a number, and a plus sign is more than 1. So we want at least 2 or more numbers. And what that matches is 2A, 2 or more digits. Then we have an OR, which is here, and then we have this group. So what we have is A through Z plus 1 or more letters. So we have A through Z plus, that's 1 or more letters, then \D asterisk. So \D is a digit, and asterisk means 0 or more times. So what that gives us is 0 or more digits. So just to review that one more time, A through Z plus is 1 or more characters, \D asterisk is 0 or more digits. So you can look these up each individually, create your own or reverse engineer, but this is just an example that we're going to walk through. Then the last one is just like the caret, instead of the beginning, now we're matching at the end. So that's what the $sign is going to do. Then we close it off with the slash. Here's a couple extra I threw in there as well that's very common, and that is the I and the G. I means ignore case, G means global. Just if you're searching, you can ignore uppers and lowers and search the entire string. Let's go ahead and run that. To look at part A, so it must start with a character. So let's see if this runs. And it is true. If we put a special character in there and run it, it's going to be false. If we put a number in there and run it, it's also going to be false. So you can see how it's restrictive. It's saying it must start with a character. So basically what we are telling it to do is we want it to have either letters or numbers in our string. So we can organize it like this, and it will be true. What it is preventing us from doing is putting a special character, say in the middle, that's false. That one's also false. But that is true. So that's a common way that you would create a username. You're removing erroneous ways for people to create usernames. That's a pretty good example of how you would use a regular expression. That's going to do it for this video. I hope you found it useful. Comment below on how you use regular expressions. I'm sure everybody would love to hear your tips and tricks. I plan to make more of these tutorials. I hope you enjoyed them. So don't forget to subscribe. Now it's time to sign out like my daughter. Dab! Happy coding!